Hello.
Hello.
I'm
Oh, I
proud.
can't hear
I am
you.
well proud of myself. Can you not hear me? I can hear you.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Oh my
hang on
god.
a minute,
Why?
Samara. Just I can't. You carry on. I can't hear you, so I just need to sort my technology out.
What about if no one can hear me? Okay, let's just. Okay, guys, welcome to the Women's Football Review. Okay, so we have some very exciting news. We do have a new co host of the show, but she is technologically not available. I really hope that everyone can hear me and it's not just okay. I'm gonna go with it. Okay, so we are still gonna bring you everything, but we can bring you even more now because there are two of us, and I am in charge of all the technology tonight. So fingers crossed it all goes well. Let's start with the Conti Cup. I can't remember if I've already talked about this, so I'm going to talk about it again because it feels like it's been ages since I did a show. Because last Sunday, yes, was the Manchester Derby. So I obviously was absolutely too busy celebrating and unavailable. And so we have moved the show to a Wednesday at 8 p.m. So hopefully more of you will be able to join. It won't cut into your weekend. And now there are two of us. We can bring you even more news about women's football. So results and tables.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes!
I'm
Oh my God.
just going to turn the
Right.
volume up because it's very quiet.
This is our new co-host. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Sorry. What a disaster.
No, no. It can only go up from here.
Can only get better.
Exactly.
I'm using a completely different setup. I clearly should have practiced this earlier.
That's so
Oh
funny.
dear. Anyway, hi Samara. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to introduce yourself to everyone because you are our
Yay.
new
Hi. So
co-host.
I'm Maria, also known as Will Skate Backwards on Instagram, and Maz Chats Ball on Twitter. Getting my social media channels mixed up
Oh
now.
yeah.
And I talk loads about football quite often. You can find me guesting on shows, chatting about Liverpool. But also, weirdly enough, I know this is a weird thing, and it's quite nice because actually everyone has just come to accept this now, which is good. I attend all of the Crystal Palace home games because they're my local team, and I do love them as much as everyone takes the mickey about that. And so I can often be found at Selhurst Park with alongside often quite we see Rich and get things going with fan cams and stuff. So
Yes.
big football fan. I attend loads of little games as well. So like on this weekend, I'm going to watch Bromley against
Exciting.
Wrexham, and you might know Wrexham are owned by Ryan Reynolds, so
Mm-hmm.
hoping he might be there. That'd be good.
Oh,
So yeah,
please.
overall football fan. Often the only woman in my little section there. So all good. And really
Exciting.
pleased to
So,
be on here. I'm really excited that you've asked me to
yay!
co-host, which is really awesome.
I was saying before that we can give even more now. We can do so much more because we could both
Yeah.
focus on different things. So it should be. And I am technology queen, apparently. I
Well,
was
you
a
can
bit
see you can't
stressed.
leave me in charge of technology because I just mess it all up. I'm meant to have a whole background and all I've got is the green screen. But hey, never mind. Next time, this is going to be so slick between me and you. People are
Yeah.
going to be like, wow, how do they do it? These women are just incredible.
Professional. So I'm going to start with talking about. I can't remember if I talked about it last time because I was just saying before that I've been all over the place because it's a Manchester derby, and then Man City just. It's been a whole journey. We went from being amazing to being not so great, and it's been a whole thing. But now I'm back. So the Conti Cup, Man City women won the Conti Cup, which is epic. They
Yeah.
were 1-0 down. and we came back to secure the title. Goals came from Sam Kerr in the 34th minute for Chelsea, and then the ever reliable Weir with 2 goals for City, and of course Ellen White bagged her 30th goal. This game was actually played to a sellout crowd, which I think is really mega.
That's amazing.
Especially in the women's game, yeah. And City were actually unlucky not to score in the first half and levelled within 5 minutes in the second half, so came out all guns blazing and won the Conti Cup, which is epic, and I'm absolutely buzzing about that. So
I was trying to go to that, and I wasn't able to go in the end. I was quite gutted.
I really wanted to go on Saturday.
But never mind. Next year.
When Man City are there again. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. No. We're doing.
Are you thinking that it's not going to happen for them next year?
No, I just think we need to come out strong, because City women this season, we were done by injury. So they struggled the first half of the season. We're getting into our stride now, but now it's looking like we're not even going to get Champions League. But it's okay, because the men are going to win the Champions League. I can't believe I just said that. Come back to me when it gets to the final of the Champions League, and we are not there. So should we do results first and tables, and then we'll talk about big news in women's football, and then you could talk about all the exciting things that you want to talk about. I'm very excited. And there is women's football on tonight and men's football, so we'll try and keep you up to date with any scores.
Big men's match.
Come on,
Come on, who?
Nobody.
You never saw Man City the other day, right?
Yeah, you were the curse. That was it. It was downhill from there.
How could you call me a curse? That's outrageous.
No, it was. And it was me going on about Jack Grealish, and then it just all went downhill. Genuinely.
I even saw the Man City bus. I was quite excited.
Did you see him get off?
I mean, I wasn't that excited. I've got to think about coach buses. You know, the coach. It's really sad, isn't it? I get really excited. It's the coach.
It is exciting. I think it is.
Oh, thank you. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So
just putting up the scores as well, so we can keep an eye on everything.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll update as we go along. So on Wednesday, the 9th of March, it was Oxford United playing Southampton in the, I want to say Southern Premier. Yeah, I'm right. See, look at me go. My brain just left me then. In the Southern Premier, and it was a 1-1 draw. And on Thursday, the 10th of March, in the WSL, we had a big game for Chelsea because they are in second. We need to keep that pressure on Arsenal, who are flying at the top of the table.
They are.
And we had a game. What am I on about? Yeah, I've literally written everything down, but I've written it down all in like random places. So between us, this is just, it can only get better. It can only get better. So it was West Ham Chelsea, and West Ham were beaten 4-1 by Chelsea, who are keeping the pressure on Arsenal, definitely. The goals for West Ham came from Dagnier, their 1 goal, and then Harder with 2 goals. She is absolutely on fire this season. Charles, and then Kerr. And Sam Kerr was obviously, like I said, the only goal scorer in the Conti Cup. Chelsea are a very, very strong team. And I think they could win the WSL this season because they actually have, I think, 3 games in hand on Arsenal.
That's right. I did have a look at the table, and because initially I was like, wow, like, you know, Arsenal flying, but yeah.
Yeah. I think, they've got 38 points. Arsenal have 40. So, and they have, because they're playing tonight, I think. Yeah, they have.
Yeah, they're hot on the heels. Yeah, tonight they're playing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're actually, Chelsea are winning 3-0.
Yep. So, closing the gap even more. And they've got now 1 game in hand.
That's half time. 3-0 at half time. That's insane.
That's what's going to happen tonight between Liverpool and Arsenal. But Arsenal.
What, it's going to be 3-0 at half time to Liverpool? Yeah, probably.
I promised a boy in Key Stage 3 at the school I work at, we have this thing called Class Dojo, and I promised him, because he's an Arsenal fan, if Arsenal win, I'll give him 100 dojo points.
Oh, I know what dojo points are. That's hilarious.
No,
Oh,
if
well,
Arsenal win,
you won't have to give them away. You'll be fine.
you're not even allowed to give them for nothing school related. So I'm gonna have to find all these reasons to why
That's
this
because
one
you
child
know that
can't
Liverpool are going to win. So
No, absolutely
deep
not.
down.
What are we going to be like near the end of the season? Awful. So let's talk about Saturday, the 12th of March in the Women's Super League. Man United beat Reading 3-1. Goals for Reading came from Rose, and for United was Galton with 2, and Russo in the 43rd minute with the final goal. United went 1-0 up, then it was levelled, and then they went on to win 3-1. Manchester United's women's team are absolutely flying, and they are standing strong in that third place spot. There was talk about Manchester City catching them up, but I think we've got a top 3 there. Not sure about positions between Arsenal and Chelsea, but I think United are claiming that third spot, unfortunately.
And City are playing Reading tonight, I believe. So
they are, because my mum wanted to watch, and she said there's none of the women's footballers on TV. But that's obvious.
We can talk about that a bit later.
We can. We absolutely can. On the 12th of March, Everton also played Leicester and won 3-2. Tony Duggan, who is ex-City, scored, and Amvegard scored 2 goals. I love Tony Duggan. She's a really, really strong player. And then the goals from Leicester came from Perfield and Tierney. And on Sunday the 13th, a game that I did watch was Spurs 0, Manchester City 1. The ever reliable, like I said, Caroline Weir with a goal in the 64th minute. City could literally not break Spurs down. It was like watching the men's team on Monday, apart from the women's team managed to score. Literally, they could not break Spurs down. Spurs had set up so well, especially in the first half.
Man City are having issues.
We're all right. We're
across the board, men and women.
But the women scored. Well, that just proves the power of the women. It's okay. It's okay. It's not the end yet. Oh, God.
Wow.
I just stressed because, what was it, like 14 points clear? Now look at us. Oh, the stress.
Well, you never know.
Yes. It's just not fair. But the good thing about it is that United are having an absolute terrible time. So they're having a worse time than us. So that just makes me feel a little bit better. But it's fine. So City, struggled for rhythm. And they had a breakthrough in the 64th minute. It wasn't the best goal, but it was a goal nonetheless. And it was really good to see Kiara Keating coming on in the second half. A really, really strong young keeper who was actually recalled from her loan back to Manchester City due to the injuries that we had in the team. And she came on for Ellie Roebuck in the second half. And she's a really exciting young talent. I think she's only about 17. So that's really exciting. Thank you for joining. And Birmingham played West Ham, and West Ham beat them 1-0. The goal scorer was Leon. Chelsea played Aston Villa and won 1-0. And again, Sam Kerr with a goal in the 92nd minute. She is hot at the minute. She is absolutely on fire. And then Brighton Arsenal was 3-0 to Arsenal, who are staking their claim at the top of the table. 2 goals from Blackstenius and 1 goal from Beth Mead, who you'll remember we did a player profile on. It seems like ages ago now. So, this was written, obviously, before tonight's results. Arsenal were 5 points clear of Chelsea, but Chelsea had 2 games in hand, and Manchester City were in 5th position, 5 points behind Manchester United in 3rd. Let's have a look at the table. So, Birmingham. Here we go. Here she is.
I've actually swapped to my phone.
power of technology. So we've just been asked, are Birmingham mathematically down yet in the Women's Super League? So if we have a look at the table, we just said Arsenal before tonight were 5 points clear of Chelsea, and they are now 2 points clear, and Chelsea still have 1 game in hand. Manchester City are still in 5th, and they are still 5 points behind Manchester United in 3rd. If they really want that 3rd spot, United are going to have to drop points. And Birmingham, let's have a look at Birmingham. Birmingham are 12th, and they have only picked up 4 points this season. So I think there's no hope.
Yeah, I think we can forget Birmingham.
Yeah, we can say
sorry,
goodbye.
I mean, not the city. Obviously, the city's lovely. The city of Birmingham is wonderful, but the team.
Yeah, no.
Someone's got to go.
Yeah, 4 points, and their goal difference is minus 32.
Not good.
That is absolutely shambolic. And Leicester in 11th. Yeah, if you look at the goal difference in the Women's Super League, West Ham in 6th, their goal difference is minus 2. So from 6th to 12th, it just gets worse and worse.
Awful.
It's absolutely shocking. But I think the Women's Super League is exciting.
No, that is exciting because, you don't know. There's that kind of, don't know who's going to win, who's going to go, who's going to stay up, who's going to, and so on. But I do wonder whether yeah, Rich, there was a plan. It went wrong. Maybe next time. Should have probably practiced this a bit earlier. I think, what was I going to say? Rich has thrown me off now. And he also mentioned food, I noticed in the comments. I can't see the comments anymore, by the way. I can only see the ones that come up. Anyway, no, what I was going to say is I wonder if that sort of gap between points and goal difference and so on is linked to things like the actual investment in the football teams, in the women's teams, because as much as we have in the men's league gaps, that there is a gap, the gaps are never that big. The goal differences, those kind of extremes, it's like it's a real extreme in the women's league, and we have to think about why that is, because really all the teams in the top league should all be fairly, and I know it's not the case in the Premier League either, because obviously we have the teams that come up and so on, but it'd be quite interesting to see if there was further investment in women's football, whether that would change, definitely. And whether there'd be a more of a race going on, or a closer top 4, closer top 6.
If you look at the teams, also, Rich, it is definitely the wrong stream. So let's not talk about Jack Grealish.
If you want to.
I would just like to say, if he hadn't have been bought for 100 million, people wouldn't be on his case so much. And I think genuinely across the board, that is a problem. The higher your price tag, you cannot fail. You can't do anything. So
he was right in front of me at one point, Samara, with his very muddy shorts, because I sit right near the front. I did take a few pictures for you.
Well, Rich has said, I'm allowed to try and get him to do a show.
Okay.
I'm going to try my best in conversation with Jack Grealish. It's going to happen.
You never know.
I don't know what I'd ask him. I'd probably just nothing.
Just sit there and draw. He'd be like, okay, this is good.
Is Samara ranting? No, never. But let's go back to women's football. Yeah, like I said, you've got Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Tottenham, Manchester City, top 5 teams. The teams with the most investment, like you said.
Mm.
And it is like West Ham are 6th with a -2 goal difference. And then you've got Aston Villa in 10th, -20. Leicester, -20. Birmingham, -32. And it's mad. Like you said, even the teams at the bottom of the Premier League, it's not ever like that. No,
it isn't. So this is quite... I think it just tells us a lot about where women's football is, where it stands in terms of not just investment, but just how people view it and its importance. I think it's got way more important than it ever has been. Like, we can see a lot more. It's a lot more visible. But we still don't really have we don't have the matches all televised. I know there is some, they do televise some, but like tonight, what takes precedence is going to be the men's matches, because that's what they're making money from. I don't know what will change that, other than a huge shift in the way that we think about women's football.
And I do think that some of the great things that are changing is, have you seen that advert with Reece James and then his sister and their dad?
Oh, no. What happened in it?
I don't know what it's an advert for.
You've paid lots of attention to it then.
No, but it's those three. And then I don't know what it's an advert for, but it shows the football. Yeah. And her playing football and him playing football. And it's nice because everything's equal. And I like
it's nice to see a lot more on the main teams, not on the main. See, that's where even our language, the way we talk about women's football is different to the way we talk about men's football. But on the football pages, on the men's football team pages, on the main pages, I suppose, they are, a lot of the top teams are now promoting their women's team as well. So they'll show the scores, they'll celebrate the players. If it's their birthday, they'll wish them a happy birthday and so on, which I think even up until maybe last year wasn't necessarily happening as much, because they tend to have their own separate page. But again, that's an interesting debate, isn't it? It's like, do we see them as two completely separate teams, which they are? And in which case, if you're a Man City men's team fan, are you also then automatically a women's team fan? How close are they? How separate are they? I think it's quite an interesting one, because I'd probably say, again, I can go and watch Crystal Palace women's down the road. Literally, they're so close. In fact, where I am now, they're literally down the road. So, do they become my automatic go-to team because they're my local team, or do I? Where do I put my allegiance?
Yeah, it's difficult, because there will be people as well that don't want to watch the women's football or don't want to watch the men's football. And like you said, it's really hard, I think, in the fight against sexism, that we still want to be recognised as women and as this is our football, but we also want it to be seen at the same level.
Yeah, and I think that's where there's that really difficult thing, because you have to get over, it's not just seeing it as another game of football, it's seeing it as women playing football and women wanting to be women. Because again, I think we said this last time I was on, we're not saying that we don't want to act like men. We want it to be women. We want women to bring their qualities to football and to the game and the match and so on. And I think that makes it a really difficult thing, because you still see, when you see some of the pictures of the women's teams and they're wearing their little shorts and their shirts and so on, you can see men are making comments about that. But then I don't think it happens actually that much when you look at men's stuff. I don't think you don't see women really commenting on.
No, I think women will say to their friends, "Oh, look at him."
Yeah, they'll talk about it. I think in private, it's more of a social conversation rather than something you're going to put online. And I think that's also a subconscious thing where we're thinking, for us to be taken seriously, we have to talk quite seriously about football. We can't do all the little banter and all that kind of stuff. And our banter has to fit in with the way that men talk about football. We can't do it in the, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example and I can't off the top of my head, but you can say it and you do, I'm sure, but you wouldn't put on Manchester City's main site, "Oh, Jack's shorts looked good today," because then it's like, love. But then they say, "You see, we can't take you seriously." But then you think, but how is that different to what you do when you talk about women's football?
Exactly. And City are 1-0 up. Demi Stokes. Epic. I love Demi Stokes.
Oh, see, I was trying to be really clever. I've pulled up seen as my screen, I'm not able to use it for this. I thought I'd pull up the scores, and then, of course, I'm not even paying attention. Where are they gone? Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I had a comment off a male friend, and he said, "Oh," and he always does this to like justify that he takes me seriously. "Oh, you actually know more than football. And you know what I'm saying. You actually know more about football than my guy mates." And I'm like, I don't find that a helpful comment, because you're clearly saying that you don't expect me to know, and you're surprised that I know more than your guy mates. And it's like, it's not a compliment. Oh yeah, she knows more about football than you do. Yeah, but it shouldn't be.
Because it's like saying you actually shouldn't, but you do. Yeah. So yeah.
That's one of the things that really annoys me.
It was quite interesting because last week I don't often listen back to podcasts that I do. I did at the beginning when I first started doing podcasts. I was like, I wanted to listen and see what nonsense I was talking. And I mean, I'm on a podcast with four men. Can't remember. How can I forget? 3 men. And I'm sorry, guys. And I was so conscious. I remember the first few that my knowledge had to be spot on and I couldn't get anything wrong. And I used to write pages and pages of just pointers and notes, things to remember, things to make sure I didn't forget, so much, because I was so conscious of getting it wrong. And then I thought, well, then you won't be taken seriously, because then they'll be like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But then as time has gone on, I've been doing, that particular podcast for a long time now, over about, I don't know, it must be about 1.5 years. The other day, for the first time in ages, I was in traffic in the car and there was like nothing on the radio I felt like listening to. And I just got a message saying, oh, the podcast is live. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm going to listen back to it. And it was quite interesting because I just thought, from the first ever one that I did, where I think I was really like technical and, I was just analysing the game and all of that kind of stuff, I then listened back to the other day. And it was really interesting because I suddenly thought, wow, actually, as a woman, I've got something completely different to say to what they were saying. So they were talking about the ins and outs of the game, and this should have happened, that should have happened, if they'd have done this formation and that formation and blah, 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 which it is interesting. And obviously that's like the intricacies of the game. But then I was then talking, so it was a Liverpool podcast. So I was talking about Mo Salah and how potentially the psychology... Whatever. And like, did you say he's going to Man City? Well, do you know what? Let him go. I say let him go. I'm going to be really controversial. If Mo wants to go, he can go. Let's see how he gets on. Anyway, and that's another story. Anyone wants to hear my opinion? Oh, actually, no, I didn't really express that opinion. On the next podcast, I will be expressing this opinion. But I was talking a little bit more, I was thinking more about the psychology of it all. So I was like, well, maybe he feels this way and the reaction of the fans is this and this is affecting that. And this is, if I think of how I would be in this position, I would probably do this, that and the other. And then kind of linking it back to other players who had left and their behaviour and how that then affected their standing in the team and the psychology of the rest of the team. And it was the same, we were then discussing Chelsea and, everything that's going on with them. And I realised that actually I've stopped trying to do the whole technical thing and this and that and the other. And I realised that I can add a completely different dimension that I'm not saying all men miss it, because they don't, but it's something that perhaps they might not have thought of. So they'd just be like, well, they should just give them the money and blah, 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 blah. Whereas I'm like, well, hang on, there's a little bit more to it than that. And we have to think about this and that and the other. And I think that's a really exciting thing, to be able to have men and women talking about football, and for you to be taking on board what men are saying and how they're talking about it. And for me, sometimes learning stuff that I'd never even thought about, or that that would bypass me because I'm just like, it's not important to me, that element of football. But then also men hearing an element or a part of football that maybe they hadn't thought of or considered, and that's really interesting, because we talk so much about like men's mental health and all that kind of stuff, and how men kind of shy away from certain conversations. But I think if you chuck a woman in to give a slightly different perspective, it can really help with getting men thinking a little bit more about things that perhaps they hadn't. And the same for women as well. So it's an interesting way of seeing how men and women can kind of bounce off at each other and actually create something really special, instead of trying to fit that mold, or we don't have to be match of the day. We can talk about other stuff as well. So I think I just think this is a really exciting thing. And that's what excites me about this show as well, that I hope that we could do that. And we'd be happy, I'm sure you'd agree, to have male guests on for us to yeah. So Jack Grealish, if you are listening,
please,
we'd love to have you on. But to have footballers on, or just people interested, anyone, I think it'd be really interesting, and for us to lead that show from our perspective to start with. So any guys out there, you want to join in, we would love to have you on.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, because I think I've done it before. I always think, right, I've got to know how many shots on target we had. I've got to know this. I've got to know this. And I need to know all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you stressing yourself out? Like, even when I've been to the game and people will go, oh, well, who came on as a sub? Who did this? Who did that? And I'm like, I've lived a life since then. But it's like people are always trying to catch you out. And I think even if they're not trying to catch you out, like you said, you feel like you have to have all these notes written down. You need to know the ins and outs of every single game. You need to know how many yellow cards there were. You need to know, because then men will go, oh, yeah, you actually do know what you're talking about.
So I would think it's quite interesting. I watch a hell of a lot of football, like actually going to matches and watching football and experiencing everything there. Like for me, it's not just watching the game, it's the whole experience of being at the match. Like if the match is really boring, I could easily, sometimes I could be standing there and I know that my mind is completely out. I might be looking at what some fans are doing, or what's going on over there, or what the managers are doing, or whatever. But I just think we shouldn't take away from the fact that we actually go to matches. And quite often, I know that I've spoken to men and they're talking so passionately and crazy about what should have happened and what shouldn't have happened, and did you see this and did you see that? And then it turns out they've never been to a football match in their lives. And I'm not saying that makes you any less of a fan than someone who does, because it doesn't. But when you're at a match, what you see is actually really different to what you see on TV. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I know I miss loads of stuff that I would otherwise have seen if I was watching it on TV. And sometimes, like, in the back of my head, something will happen. I'll be like, oh, I want to see, where's the replay? I need to see the replay. Or I need the commentator to quickly tell me what just happened. But then that actually makes it quite, again, it's giving you a different perspective and a different experience of watching a match. So quite often after I go to a match, I then will watch it back, not the whole thing, but I'll watch some of it back on TV, because I just want to get the little bits that I missed, or, where something happens in the far corner and you're like, I've got no idea what's going on. And no one tells you, and people looking at their phones trying to find out online what's happening, and you're there, then that's always quite interesting. So I always hold on to the fact that I actually do go to matches, and I feel like I've got a different experience and something else that I can talk about than someone who's watched it on telly and been told what to think. That's another thing, because you've got the commentators telling you what you should be thinking, whereas you might come out and go, oh God, that was a terrible performance, and they're like, oh no, the commentator was well impressed. You're like, all right, well, I watched it, it was rubbish. So
thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe. Please.
And share it. It's obviously recorded, so you can share it if you're all watching that big match. That's what's going on. Nothing at the moment.
I don't know what game you're talking about. I just know this is the game where that boy in the Key Stage 3 is going to get his 100 dojo points.
They ain't getting nothing. It's getting nothing. I'm waiting for Chelsea. I want Chelsea women to really go crazy and score another 3 or 4 goals. That'd be awesome.
They are absolutely on fire.
I think they will pass Arsenal. I can see that happening.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Women's Championship. Blackburn and Sunderland ended 2-1 to Blackburn. Jordan and Blanchard scored for Blackburn, and Manders scored for Sunderland. Liverpool are keeping strong at the top of the women's championship. They have a great team. They beat Charlton 1-0, Matthews in the 84th minute. And I always say that shows the mentality of the team to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to score that goal in the 84th minute. And unfortunately for Rich, Crystal Palace lost 2-0 to Lewes. Porter and Dalton with the goals for Lewes, and Wilson got a red card in the 71st minute for Crystal Palace. We were saying about, like you were saying about mentality, that Crystal Palace started off really well, went in this slump, losing. Then they won, and we were like, oh, this might be it. And yeah, Palace, it's not great. They are now
just checking the table. Yeah. No, where are they? Oh no, I'm looking at the Super League. It would help if I was looking at the correct league.
The technology next week is going to be swift.
It's because we need an assistant who can do all this stuff.
Oh, Rich.
Anyone out there who wants some experience? I'm a Debtor's Army. Anyone out there who wants some experience in dealing with the tech side? Because, we need to be focusing on what we're talking about.
Next year will be Crystal Palace women. Crystal Palace women have a great team. I think once you lose that run of form, it's so difficult to get back. Difficult.
How many points are they off? A lot. They're at 27. With a good run.
Durham at 29 points in fourth.
Yeah.
It's not the worst, but it's just
they're on 27 points, and third place has got 29 points. So, it's quite open actually for that third and fourth spot.
This is why I wish more of it was on telly, because this is so exciting. This is so exciting.
It's quite interesting because it kind of reflects the men's championship as well, because that's actually a really exciting league. The lower leagues are so exciting. I think we should give credit to some of the lower leagues, some of the, and the women's leagues a lot more than we do, because it is exciting football. If people want to not be bored with the same old, top of the Premier League, which of the 2 or 3 are going to win, not that we're complaining, but if people want to see something a little bit more of a little bit more competition, tune into the women's matches or go and watch one. I'm sure a lot of people live near the stadiums where they're playing, so I think a lot of people don't realise that the women obviously don't play in the not obviously, but the women don't play in the main stadiums. They play at the smaller stadium, so you can go and watch, and actually it's really good value as well, so you can get to go and watch a match for like £10, £5 now and then. So people go and watch them. We're going to support the women's league. They're awesome.
I hope we invest more in our women's team. Yeah. And I think it is, like we were saying, if you look at the top of the WSL and the top of the championship, it's the teams with the big investment.
Yeah.
And not obviously that is the case in the men's football, but I think with the women especially,
the disparity is larger.
Yeah, it's definitely. And I think also it's down to like your TV companies as well. It's not hard to put the games on. It's not hard at all.
No.
And then you get more people watching the games, then more people will go to the games, and then obviously you can't invest what you don't have, but to make the money you need to get the women's game out there, don't you?
Yeah, it'd be amazing to think in a few years to see the women's teams playing in the big main stadiums and filling them. And, there's so many ideas put forward, and I don't see why they don't do it. Having the women's matches played before the men's matches on occasion, so that you can actually get both. And maybe you wouldn't fill out the whole stadium, but I think even for the women players, that's a real boost to have more support, be bringing in people into the main stadium, and that's really exciting to be able to go and go to the big stadiums and see how it is. But then similarly, I actually really enjoy going to smaller stadiums because you feel so part of it, and there's that sense of community. So it'd be lovely to see people building that kind of sense of community and then hopefully transferring it into the big stadiums.
That's what we've talked about before, like the women playing before the men, like every so often doing these double headers just to generate, because there'll be people that go to it and think that was great. Like I know there's people that have City women's season tickets rather than the men's, because originally it was because it was so much cheaper, but now they've just fallen in love with it.
Yeah. That's a point, actually. I hadn't even thought about the fact that you could get season tickets for the women's things as well. I think the other thing is obviously that makes it a little bit less visible is the fact that the women do share their stadiums with usually a completely different team. So you're just like, oh, okay, why are they playing there if you don't know much about it? Because I remember not realising this initially and then being like, oh, okay. And I think it'd be nice to have just a little bit more prominence at those stadiums as well.
I think that's what's nice about Man City women playing at the academy, because it's still
it's their academy. Yeah, it's their ground. Because as much as, so like for example, Crystal Palace play at Bromley, you know, ultimately it's Bromley's ground, and that's what the the diehard fans are going to see it as. They're not going to see it as Crystal Palace women's. So it'd be nice to see a little bit more prominence of that. You know, on the sign where it's got Bromley FC, have Crystal Palace as well on there, women's. So that would be nice to see a little bit more prominence of the teams.
Where were we up to? Oh, Crystal Palace. Sheffield United beat London City 2-1. Goals from Sweetman, Kirk and Watson secured that win for Sheffield United. And Bristol City beat Watford 3-1. Goals from Bull and Harrison to secure that win. Bull with 2 goals. So if we look at the table, like we said, Liverpool, well, Bristol City are in second on 35 points and Liverpool have 42. So technically it isn't over, but I think Liverpool are too strong. I think.
I mean, Bristol on a bit of a run though, looking at their form on the thing. Because Liverpool actually drew the previous one, not the previous, the one before last. But Bristol have got 5 wins in a row.
It could happen. But I think we will be seeing Liverpool in the Super League next season. And then right at the bottom of the table, you've got Coventry, who've picked up 1 point.
It's so sad.
It is. It actually is.
It's really sad. They literally, I mean, they won one a couple of games ago. They got a win. But that's quite sad. I do feel sorry for them. Do you ever wonder? I do wonder when the teams that are right at the bottom of the leagues. But what goes through the players' minds? Is it like week in, week out? You're just like, oh, another loss, we're just going to lose again, or do they? What is the hope? What have they got to fight for? Knowing me, I'd be like, come on. Even though we're going to get relegated, we'll win the league. We'll be top of the other league. We'll win the bottom league, the league below. It's really hard. I think if you're that far down, literally with 1 point, I can't imagine what must be going through the players' heads on that. It must be just demoralising, to be honest. I mean, Watford women have had an even worse run actually recently. They've got loss, and a draw. So. Yes,
it is. Yeah, I do think the same. It is like even in the men's game. I think what are you saying to each other? Because you're like Norwich. What are you saying now? Like,
I mean, they just bounce backwards and forwards, don't they? They're these teams that just kind of bounce in and out the leagues, and really like. You can't help but think, what are they, as you say, what are they, what is it they're trying to achieve? So you get into the Premier League, for example, the Super League for women, and you languish at the bottom the whole season. And probably the most depressing thing, it must be like when you hate going to work, if you hate your job, or where someone gets up and you're like, oh, I just don't want to go in. That must be what it's like. And then when they're facing the big, massive teams, it must be even worse. I just can't imagine what that must feel like. I'd love to speak to a player in one of these teams, not in a horrible way, but just be like,
no.
what is your what do you do to get you to go and play week in, week out, knowing that you're losing every single week? And what does that make you as a player feel? Does it make you think, oh, I'm better than this and it's the rest of the team? Does it make you think, God, I'm really rubbish? What am I doing? I can't imagine being in that position.
So Coventry, Matata Army just said went into administration. Yeah, they went into voluntary liquidation in December.
So did they have to drop? Did they drop
halfway through the first season as a fully professional club? So that's their first season as a fully professional club, and it said that they, the club's website lists a squad of 21 players. It was announced that 30 people would have their contracts terminated.
See, that's what I mean. It's so sad when that happens.
And it was COVID, and actually, they said COVID and Brexit were the factors.
It's terrible. Yeah. Really bad. Because then, it's not the players' fault. It's not the fans' fault. And again, it's that separation between the men's teams and the women's teams. Because you can't help but think, well, why can't the big team that's behind them, why can't they somehow support them? But they are two different entities, and that's why I was saying earlier, do we think of them as two completely different teams? Which case, or are they the same but there's a men's and a women's? In which case, if we're going to think of them as completely separate, then in a way, like their names are misleading. It's really confusing to think of them as
like ladies, women's, but it's still the same.
It's
still the same team.
Coventry, the same team. They wear the same kits, and so it's quite a confusing concept in many ways. And I think that's another thing that can confuse people coming fresh into women's football. Like, what is going on? How close are they? How are they linked? Do they train together? Do they do this? And it's an interesting thing.
Coventry did draw 0-0 to Durham. I forgot about that one. On Saturday the 12th of March.
Yeah, they had a draw.
Yeah. The Northern Premier and the Southern Premier, you will never see anything about these. Even on Sky Sports scores, you can't get match updates, nothing. Wait till the end of the game, you get the results, that's it. So we'll quickly go through them. In the Northern Premier, West Brom beat Hull City 4-2. Brighouse Town lost 1-0 to AFC Fylde. Derby beat Huddersfield 3-0. Nottingham Forest beat Stoke 2-0. Middlesbrough beat Sheffield 2-1. And Loughborough lost 3-0 to Wolves. If you look at their table, Wolves are still on top. They've actually got games in hand as well. 2 games in hand on top of the league. It's not bad, is it? And then right at the bottom, you've got Hull City, who've only picked up 3 points this season. It's awful, isn't it? Like you said, what do the players think? Like, you picked up 3 points this season, and that's it.
Just depressing, isn't it? I can't imagine.
And I think the Northern and Southern deserve a lot more. Like, you can't get anything. You can get final results, and that's it.
I know. I was just looking up to find the results on the BBC website, and they're not there, I don't think. Or they're not coming up anyway.
A lot of the Northern and Southern Premier games are postponed. All the time postponed. Waterlogged pitches, icy pitches.
I was going to say, is that due to their pitches? Yeah.
Yeah. In the Southern Premier, though, this is why we need it to be more, promoted more. Because if you look at some of these results, Portsmouth beat London Bees 4-0. MK Dons beat Oxford United 1-0. Ipswich beat Cardiff 3-0. Crawley beat Hounslow 7-1.
Blimmin' heck.
Well, Hounslow have zero wins. I don't know. You can't get match report, so I don't know if they went 1-0 up or they just scored a goal for pride. But
they let them have one.
7-1. Ouch. Yeah, absolutely. And this is why these games you should be able to see them, because that's an 8-goal game. Like, I want to see it. Gillingham beat Keynsham 8-0.
Gosh,
absolutely battered them. Southampton drew 1-1 with Bridgewater United, and Plymouth Argyle beat Chichester and Chelsea 2-1. If you look at that table, like we said, Hounslow have nothing. They've taken nothing from this season.
Insane, absolutely insane. But just to say, Man City women did actually beat Reading 2-0 in the end.
Way!
So there you go. That's good.
At least one of our teams can win.
It's so interesting seeing different fans, how different teams, fans teams, what am I trying to say? Fans of different teams, how they react to their teams winning or losing. So I always find certain teams, it's like they lose hope, they lose once or they draw and they're like, oh, it's the end of the world, because they're so used to winning. Whereas I always think Liverpool fans are really interesting, because you get like, there's two camps, and there's the ones who are like, it's the end of the world, nothing's ever going to happen, oh, it's terrible, oh, we've got the worst owners, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the super optimistic all the time, well, it doesn't matter, we'll take it, we'll do it, we'll do this.
That's like with Man City. It seems like as well, the fans that were there before the money are like me. I am annoyed, but I was also at Main Road crying when I was 3 years old when we were rubbish. And there was being first to the Premier League was like it was like a dream. Like I used to hate football. And I feel like the fans before the money are like, oh well, it could be worse. Look where we've come from. Whereas the fans after money are like, no,
they're spoiled. Yeah, spoiled.
And it's like, it is annoying, but the fact that we're challenging for the Premier League again, Champions League, like, this is mad. It's stuff of dreams.
Well, I mean, and then you get Crystal Palace fans who are just happy when it's like they're hilarious. It's like they go by I know we've got Crystal Palace fans watching. They go by they always look at the performance. So they could lose, but they're thrilled. And you're there and you're like, okay, you've just lost, but you're absolutely over the moon. Okay, that's good. And like the other day against Man City, you'd think they'd have won the blooming Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, everything. They were so over the moon. So it's interesting how different teams celebrate.
That is definitely Rich, because he's not stopped talking about it.
Right. That was an awesome match. Sorry.
I was watching it, and you know when you just know that nothing's gonna happen.
I'm so happy that nothing happened.
And you just sit there watching, and you just think, yeah. I think every fan's experienced that. You just like, it's not happening. It's not our day, but it's fine. It's okay because it's not the end. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's Rich's fault. I went on his show and I was like, oh yeah, my top 4 are, and that's it, blown it.
I'm at least you're saying it's Richard's fault now and it wasn't me cursing it.
Yeah, it's both of you.
Oh, thanks.
We outplayed Chelsea and City, of course. We're going to be happy. Okay, this is about the women's football. So in women's football,
go back to the women.
Man City are doing so well. So, I've written down some big news. Women's FA Cup prize money will increase to 3 million from next season. The Football Association have announced. I'm choking. It's currently 300,000, and the winner takes 25,000. It hasn't been confirmed how it's going to be split. But Sue Campbell, the director of the Women's Football English Football's governing body, has said that this will benefit clubs across the football pyramid. And that they're always looking at ways to make improvements and investments to help break the boundaries. This is obviously massive for the growth of women's football. FA Cup's a huge competition, men's, women's. And the women's game is obviously in this growth period. So this is really exciting. Currently, the winners of the men's FA Cup take... It's
going to be something stupid, isn't it?
The men's winners take 1.8 million. And the prize...
the women, there is catching up to do. So it's down to us to get out there and watch these matches, go and support them.
Yeah. And however, this is a massive step forward in the women's game to take it up to 3 million. But Emma Hayes, who's the Chelsea manager, I absolutely love her. I think she's amazing. She said we have to keep pushing because, yes, she's happy about it, but the gap between men's and women's football is still completely unacceptable. The fact that the women's team who win, she actually pointed out, the women's team who win get less than 5% of the total fund.
That's insane, isn't it?
That's big news because it's good news, but it's also
but it's a step. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, we have to see it. Even when we win, we lose. Oh, good. Nice. What's the average pay for a professional women's football player in the Super League?
I looked at that a few shows ago, and it was something like the last time it was reported, £30,000.
What, a year? A year?
Yeah.
Really?
30 grand. It was the top players were taking 30 grand, which is a full-time job. But
that's insane, isn't it?
The
men 30 grand a day at least.
30 grand an hour.
So that's why, this is why it's really hard to. So at the moment, with Liverpool, for example, there's this big debate over what Mo Salah should be paid and whether he should be commanding. We don't know what he's asking for, but people are talking some ridiculous figures like 600,000 a week and blah, 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 blah. And I've been involved in loads of debates where it's is he worth that much and this and that? And it's is anyone worth that amount of money? And I don't care what people out there say. No, they're not. Yeah. So if you can have the equivalent of Mo Salah, whatever the female equivalent would be, earning £30,000 a year, that's just ridiculous. It's absolutely insane and ridiculous. And yes, we know that women's football isn't obviously as popular as the men's. It's not, it doesn't have all the sponsorship deals and it's not televised and so on, or it's not televised as much. But that's where things have to change. And I think that's actually down to the teams themselves. So, I don't know, Manchester City and Crystal Palace and Liverpool and all of them should actually be working. There should just be more joined up working between the two teams to try and do something to even that out. Because why, as a woman, then, would you go into playing women's football if the top ones are earning 30 grand a year?
Yeah. So I have Googled it. And since that, it has changed. So, yeah. So we've got, here we go. 20 salary start at 20 grand. 20 grand. the top players and it top. So this will be your Lucy Bronze.
Yeah.
140,000 she was taking home, which is still, and it says most are in the lower regions, so it will be 30,
they would be
30, 40, 50 grand a year. And that's
insane.
To make that not being a professional footballer. So you've got your top players, so it'll be City, United, Liverpool.
But even within those, I'd imagine there's quite a difference between each player and what they're getting.
I wonder as well what they class as a top player in the women's football.
Yeah.
Because 140,000 is the top. 140,000 is the top. And then in Europe, people are earning 200,000. And then in America, it's the most. And Americans
they've got equal pay, haven't they, with the men?
It's so strange because they don't view football as important as us, but they view the women's teams as more equal. It's mad.
Yeah. Be interesting actually to find out a little bit more about their thinking and the way that why that's, because it's a great thing, but why that's come about in America, in a place where football, or soccer as they call it, isn't really, they don't take it particularly seriously as a sport, or they see it as a lesser sport than obviously their football and whatever else, basketball and so on.
So it's 140,000 top earners, and then it'd be from 20 grand. But imagine
And that's actually, it's just depressing. Imagine going, training, day in, day out, doing whatever else you need to do because people forget all the other stuff that football players have to do. And the women's teams work really hard on their promo and all of that. Yeah. And then just, you might as well you could just get a fair, even 20 grand is just, it's below the average anyway of what you would earn doing any other job. And these are people who are, physically demanding work. You've not got a huge, you're not going to do it all your life. So it's quite sad to think that that's what's being paid. But again, that's also down to fans getting out there and going and supporting the women's teams. So
is there anything that you want to talk about?
I was going to say, one thing that stood out for me this week. It's going to sound really odd. So I've been following her game too. I've been looking at everything that's going on. It's so exciting how it's really building up and snowballing. And I was particularly excited by how some of the lower league teams are really embracing it. So I think it's been great to see. Oh yeah, we should mention that in a minute. I think it's been amazing to see teams like Yeovil, who weirdly enough, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Yeovil when I've seen them play. What's that?
For every team. I support Liverpool, but I have a soft spot for.
Well, Yeovil's like National League. We're talking like, what's that, fourth tier, third, fourth, whatever. So, I don't think there's an issue there. But they actually, do you know what? They play really entertaining football. The lower leagues play incredibly entertaining football. So it's really good to see some of these teams who are quite low down, who you would think actually might not really care. Why would they give their efforts into supporting something like her game too when they've got so much kind of to focus on to fund? Their finances are a bit of a mess, the way they're run sometimes is an issue. So it's great to see them doing getting involved in something like her game too. And actually I think a lot of the lower league teams should take note of that, and because I think that gives them a platform, another platform to raise their game and raise their profile. So it's been really exciting to just see more clubs getting on board and wanting to get involved and make football something that everyone can enjoy and go along to. So I've been really excited by that. And also the other day I was really conscious of the amount of women I was at Selhurst Park the other day watching see. And did I tell you about that? It was an interesting match. But it was really interesting to see how the dynamic changes depending on the time of the game as well. So an evening match, definitely not as many women attend as a Saturday afternoon match. And that's quite interesting. So I like the other day, I looked around the block. I was actually going to try and speak to a few women, but evening matches, people kind of run off at the end anyway, so you don't quite get to nab people. And also I was really conscious that I wasn't necessarily wearing anything that identified me as being someone to trust to talk to, or like they'd be like, well, why do you care what we think? But in the block where I was standing, honestly, I think I saw one woman, and she was actually there. She looked so bored. She was with her boyfriend who, where they're trying to explain what's going on, and she just looked like but I just thought, it's why do women not attend? What is it that stops women going to the matches? And in the evening, childcare and so on would be the obvious one, but I've become really intrigued by what makes people go, what makes them not go, what might make it easier to go.
I wonder if it's also safety.
Definitely. So, if you're a lot of our stadiums are in the middle of very residential areas, maybe not the best areas in the cities where they're based. Would you, as a woman, go on your own to a match and then finish at 10 o'clock, 10:15, whatever time you get out, have to make your way to a train station with very rowdy, drunk people? It doesn't, I don't think I'd do it. And when I went to Liverpool that was ages ago, back in October, it was winter, it was obviously getting dark, finished the game, and I decided I was going to walk back to the station, which took about 40 minutes, stupid decision. But walking through like Anfield and some of the, not the most I don't want to sort of offend it. You know, not the most. If you're not from around there, you don't know the place, and it's not the nicest surroundings. And I was kind of walking along, and you're just like, this is a bit not nice. And you're on your own, and you know there are people very drunk, and it's not the best. I don't think I'd want to go necessarily to Selhurst Park and then try and work my way down to the station on my own when the whole crowd comes out. And then what's the other option? You wait until everyone goes, then you're on your own anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, safety and so on.
It would be interesting for us, like you said, you to speak to female fans, me to speak to female fans. We put something together to like figure it out. Because if we get loads of different people's reasons why, we can then bring them together.
And that's something we can feed back to, not just to clubs that we're linked to, but to any, you know, just put something out and say, listen, these are the things that women are saying. This is why I won't attend an evening match, or why I won't attend a match at all. And, you know, making women feel more comfortable going to a match on their own or just with a few other female friends. Quite often, you know, do you know what? That's the point. I don't think I've ever seen just a group of women go to a match. Not the ones that I've been to anyway. It's always men and women together, or a man and a woman. And it'd be quite interesting. Wouldn't it be great to have women going, what should we do on Saturday? Oh, let's go and watch a match together, and people going along. And understand, I'd love for more women to. I don't know about you. Do you get people saying to you, would you go to a football match for, or why? You know, intrigued as to your reasoning. And I just love it.
Yeah, they'll say like, "Oh, I can't believe you enjoy that."
Yeah, don't you think it's boring? Isn't it boring? Like,
I feel like
I get that a lot.
Are like not conditioned, but like because women have grown up their whole lives being like football's for boys.
Yeah,
and girls assume they hate it, but they've never even tried to be interested, and no one's
actually. Just that togetherness and the social side of football is so much fun. It's really important to me to get to the match early, because I want to go and just soak it up, and I want to go into like the fan zone and get something to eat. When you talk about food, get something to eat, you know, meet other people, have a chat, see there's always something going on pre-match. There's all of that stuff, and it's so exciting and fun every time. You know, every single match is different, and I don't tire of it at all. And when there's no football on, a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do this weekend? What am I going to do? So it's just, I'd love for more women to realise that there's more. I know it sounds ridiculous in a way, but there's more to it than the actual what's just taken place on the pitch. You can go and enjoy it. Come on, let's have some hen groups going down to a football match. It'd be brilliant.
I'd love that. Should we talk
That'd
about
be hilarious.
Football Manager, and then there's a comment about the FIFA. I don't really play video games. Yeah,
so they are being added onto, you know, all these games that people play. So Football Manager, I think that's brilliant. Managing your football, a female football team, and again, I'd imagine Football Manager and FIFA. I'm not making this up. I know it's true. That's got a majority male audience. So it'd be really interesting to see how many players, and I'm sure the companies that make the games will be able to kind of provide this kind of research or do the research. It'd be so interesting to see how many players of FIFA and Football Manager choose a women's team to manage or a women's team to play. So I know that my son does the other day, and it's really funny because actually I did something that that's almost like the opposite of what we're talking about. My son was playing FIFA and he was playing women's team, just playing two women's teams. And I just went, why are you playing women's team? And it's just because I've not seen it before, and I was quite surprised. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that impacts the actual real game on the ground. What does that say? I completely ignored it ever since.
I don't really know much about video games, but
I love video games. I'm rubbish at FIFA though, but Football Manager I need to get into because I think I could nail that one. FIFA, I just don't. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, who am I controlling? I want that player to move, but the wrong one's moving. How do I kick the ball? It's really embarrassing. Maybe I should do a live stream of me playing FIFA. I think we'd get millions.
I would win that. That would be brilliant.
Maybe that's what we should do. We'll have a game of FIFA against each other. It'd be so embarrassing. My son ends up getting bored of playing with me, and he ends up getting his goalkeeper to just score goals against me because I'm that bad at FIFA. Like, really bad. Really bad.
Yeah, so it is. I think you made a really good point there. I'd like to see when this all happens, like how many people actually do choose to play as a women's team.
It'd be nice to see the advertising aimed at women to actually go and play Football Manager, because manager, again, it's a different skill set and a different set of it's a different skill set actually managing the team to playing the game on playing a game of football. And I think that could be quite interesting, because I think women actually make incredible managers, and I'd love to see more women managing men's teams and see how that pans out. So if anyone would like me to manage their football team, I am, of course, available. I'd be like, so guys, today our aim is to score some goals. We have practiced this day in, day out. There's no excuse. This 1-0 business is not good enough. We need to be seeing 20-0 because that's what we practice. So come on, let's get it done.
I need to see this. Please, somebody give her
Let me manage your team.
Yes. Okay. So before we go, is there anything else we want to talk about this week?
Oh, I don't know. I think we've covered so much. It's been really good fun, actually.
I'm so excited for this. So this is your new team for the women's. Oh, I've just checked the football. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I've not even been looking. Oh, hang on, let's go back.
This is our new team for the women's football review, and it's so exciting because there's 2 of us now. Like, the show was like, what, just 40 minutes with just me. Now, because we can have more discussions, we can find out double the information. It's just going to make it so much more like exciting. We could do so much more. Let's just update you on Women's Super League. Manchester City beat Reading 2-0. Everton lost 3-0 to Chelsea, and Manchester United are beating West Ham 1-0, but that game's not finished yet. If I'm remembering correctly, the French men's team, Troyes, won promotion. I'm Googling it. I'm actually Googling it. Here we go. This is a live Google.
What have we got?
I'm confused. Oh, but we did get, why is Manchester City owner CFG trying to buy French team Troyes? That came up. Oh, Man City. Let me see. Female manager. That's exciting.
I heard this as well, actually.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm just going to reach for my cable. I'm not being weird. My battery's running out on my phone.
That's epic. Yes.
That'd be really interesting to see how that pans out, actually, and how the players react. What response they get, whether it's different to having a man.
Might be a different.
I'm sure it would be.
Let me see. History doesn't say, but I remember this story, so we will find out exactly what team. But that is epic. Like, I'm thinking that, like, do you think that maybe men, like the male players, would hold back a bit from being, you know, how sometimes not aggressive, but sometimes they will get a bit argumentative with managers. I wonder if they would kind of pull back if it was a female, because they.
But maybe that could improve their game. It could be a really, sorry, I'm bending down trying to just sort out this cable. Maybe that would actually be I just wonder whether that would add a different dynamic. I mean, it will, 100%. Of course it will. But that also depends on how the woman chooses to manage. So is it, again, that thing that we were saying where you try and emulate what the men were doing, or whether you actually use your I don't know, your different skill set or your different ideas to really improve the men's game?
Yeah. That'd be really interesting. I hope it does happen. I think if it does happen the first time, it'll be a much lower league team.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting just to see the dynamic of the players and also the dynamic between managers. So if you've got a male manager,
it's so interesting to see how a manager, like,
is Pep Guardiola going to get in the face of a female manager?
I was going to say, yeah. Would they do, or would it just be? I reckon it would be so interesting. Oh my gosh, I should do manager for the day. Yeah. Pick a team and you get to manage them for the day on match day, key days.
I feel like they should get in the manager's face because it shouldn't matter. But I feel like they would second guess themselves. Oh, I can't say that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want
to.
Or
maybe they shouldn't be getting in each other's face anyway, regardless of whether they're men or women. Maybe they need to just control themselves.
Yes. Maybe they just need to be kinder humans.
Be kind. Yeah, we'll start a whole new league, the Kind League. You apologise for winning. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that would be interesting though.
Yeah.
Because I think it would. Because I know it's...
I think we should follow that. It'd be really good to see how that pans out.
I think it's weird though that how in women's football it's common to have a male manager.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But also, I wonder how, even then, I bet there's a difference in the way that the players respond. What's happened?
Just,
Who scored? Hang on, let me check.
No.
Hang on, let's do a live check. Live on air.
I'm sulking now.
You should not sulk. You should be happy.
Oh,
it's not updated.
Of course. It was that silly man.
What silly man? Oh, it's Jutta.
Yeah.
Well done, Diogo. Why is he silly?
I'd love to see you as a manager. Well done. Well,
I'd be an excellent manager. I'd be really good. I'd get my team. I'd be like, oh, well done, Diogo. Let's try and get another.
Come on, Arsenal. That poor child's going to be crying now because he's losing his dojo points.
Good. You shouldn't have offered him any kind of... You were encouraging gambling. It's outrageous. You need to just tell the child that you shouldn't need rewards for betting on scores. It's outrageous. I think what we need to talk about next time, which would be really good, we should talk about sponsorship for women's... Who sponsors women's... who sponsors the teams?
I don't blame her. I remember that. Yeah, I don't blame her, to be honest, because she's having an absolute ball at Chelsea. She's brilliant. I don't know if there maybe is a fear factor as well.
Oh, definitely. I'd imagine that.
Yeah, because I think as well, imagine you're in the dugout and it's not going to plan. The abuse you're going to get from fans, that'll be in your head.
And it'll be horrible abuse. Not nice.
Yeah,
not nice. But yeah, I'd love to manage a football team. Bring it on. I wouldn't have a clue what I'm doing in terms of the football.
You'd be like,
but I reckon I could give them really good pep talks. I'd be like, come on, let's go to a spa, team day, team building. We're going to a spa. Let's just do penalty shootouts all the time. We'll just practice that. Bit of running around. That's all you need. Pass the ball a few times, pass and run, and all that. We'll be fine.
Maybe they'd be so chilled out and positive that they just win everything.
Exactly. Come on, give me a team. Give me a team for like half a season. Let's see what I can do with them.
Maybe you should go to Liverpool now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, maybe not Liverpool. We don't want to go too far then. I need like a lower league. Yeovil must have a women's team. Do they have a women's team? Mateta's Army will be able to tell us. Do Yeovil have a women's team? If they do, actually, do you know what? Their men's team needs a decent manager. Not there's anything wrong with Darren, what I can't remember his surname, but I reckon I could whip them into shape. They need some help.
It would be interesting. I think we'll start following that definitely.
Yeah.
Because it will happen, but it would be interesting to see. And it would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in the dressing room of
Netflix should be filming.
Of a women's team with a male manager. I'd love to see what it's like in the dressing room.
I wonder what the fans think of the idea of a female manager on a men's team.
Oh gosh, I dread to think. Some of the comments would be horrendous. It'd be all right. Because what we've noticed is, and we brought it up on the show, like when it's a female referee, when she makes a decision that the fans don't like, it's suddenly because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Whereas when a male referee makes a decision, we don't go, oh, it's because you're a man. Do you know?
But, they do hurl abuse. I'd hate to be a referee, full stop. I can't imagine why anyone would ever want to do that.
I think it always comes down to, for a woman, it's always because you're a woman, you made that mistake. And I think that would put off a woman managing a man's team. Because I think
wouldn't care. I'd be like, whatever.
Yeah, the pressure would be on. I think it would be. Yeah, I think it will happen, but I think maybe internationally first.
Yeah, I can't. I think football is too big, almost like too big a thing here for it to be instantly accepted and done. And I think even the teams themselves, even if they had a woman who they think,
yes, they did. I remember talking about that. That's me being stupid. Yeah, they are now Bridgewater United.
Well, Bridgewater United, if you need a manager, me and Samara can help you out. Between us, we can work this out. We can't work the technology, but we can definitely do stuff on the football bit. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. Definitely something to follow.
Yeah.
Is female managers and their progression. Because like you were saying, football's too big here.
Kind of too big here for it, I think, for there to be what I was going to say is I'd imagine even if you had a woman who a team thought actually she'd probably do really well and is really good, I think there would be a bit of a hesitation to put a woman in place of like a really established male football team.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors, and I think for the women themselves, a lot of it, unfortunately, will be what are people going to say. I have to, we feel like we have to prove ourselves when we talk about football.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine what it would be like for a female manager stepping into that dressing room and being like, right, I've got to do well. Especially if it was a Premier League club, I'd be like, I have to do well. There'd be no. Whereas I think sometimes men's, obviously not as much anymore. They chop and change managers, but they do get chances. I feel like a woman would feel I've got one chance.
Yeah, I could imagine that the minute it starts going wrong, that they're out.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like
another goal. Maybe not. No, so I can also see messages coming up on my phone, you see, but I don't know. I think probably not. That might have actually been something
done at the end of the show. This is not good enough, Rich. Next week we need you.
Yeah. This is where men and women need to work together to make things happen. And Rich, we were just saying we really need an assistant, so we're happy for you to take the assistant role.
You've been interviewed and you passed, so thank you.
Yeah, on your own channel that you're allowing us to use, but we're good with that.
So I know you mentioned your social media before, but do you want to?
Oh, where you can find me. I'm on at Woolskate Backwards and Maz Chat Sport. I'm trying to put more stuff up on my Twitter. I'm really rubbish at updating Twitter. I don't know why. It's like I feel like I don't have enough to say. No, well, I do, but I don't know.
I just talk about Jack Grealish. It's okay. And please follow. Look at that. Do you know?
That was. Almost
was
perfect.
seamless. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Please follow her game
Delightful.
too. We hopefully will have some more exciting news about her game too next week. And then I am _Samara with Jasmine on Instagram and SRJ_dance on Twitter, because it was supposed to be a dance profile because I wanted to go and do professional dancing and choreography. Then I decided not to, and now I'll be forever known as SRJ Dance. But it's okay.
Well, it's a bit like mine was, about fitness, and I roller skate and roller skating and whatever, and it clearly isn't. It's just about food. It's about the opposite of what it started out, and then it's become this weird mixture of food and football. I have to say, the pies the other day at Selhurst were really good. Liverpool 2, I was right. I think Bobby scored. This is incredible.
This poor child and his poor dojos.
Give him like what's the word? Commiseration prize.
5 dojos.
Minus.
Do you know what, Rich? Less of your cheek.
Yeah, it was Bobby. It was for me now. That's awesome. Yes.
Do you know what? Honestly, Liverpool have great players, and I think it's the same. You'll be the same with Man City. There is now a group of fans that are just you can't cope. Like, they're just insufferable. Like, what's the word? Unsufferable. From lots of teams. It's like this new breed of fans. And it's mostly social media fans, I think.
Yeah.
And you just can't cope.
Well,
so you have to dig out the real fans.
Resilient. People need to just be resilient when it comes to these things. Sorry, I thought I'd seen another goal and I got excited, but it wasn't. It was the assists.
Absolutely not. I couldn't cope. We'd be such good coaches. You need to be resilient, be kind, be loyal, have fun.
We need to go to the spa once a week. We need to take care of our skin. We need to be, taking care of inside and out. It's not just about,
exactly.
Football.
Rich is going to lose his job as assistant.
Can't be mad at Liverpool. Really should not have gone missing in the second half.
You know why? Because he's too busy, wondering how he's going to marry me, propose.
Oh, is that what he was thinking about the other day? Oh, He looked like he wasn't quite there.
Yeah, well, honestly.
There was some tragic goings on that pitch that night, but that's another story. We won't talk about
the women's football review.
No, it's not.
Talk about positive, resilient news.
Oh yeah, we're all positive. That's what we're about. Yeah, so it's all there's positive stuff going on. Liverpool winning, so it's all good.
He was too focused on his hair, says Rich.
And there was hairband wars going on. Grealish and Gallagher. It's hilarious. I always refer to Gallagher as blonde Grealish, actually. But then now I've been calling him, I just call Grealish blonde Gallagher. Because actually it turned out they're both blonde. So that's a bit silly. Made sense to me at the beginning of the season.
Imagine if somebody just tuned in now, they'd be like,
oh, women, this is why we don't listen to women talking about football. But really, this is why the men love listening to us talking about football. Yeah, I'm respecting Gallagher. I've given him pure respect, Rich. I watch the guy week in, week out, and what's he going to do? He's going to abandon for Chelsea. But hey, what can we do?
No loyalty. No
Terrible.
loyalty.
That's what we'd instill in the game as women. Loyalty. Once you're in and you're good, you can't leave.
You're in for life.
What do you mean you're leaving? I feel like the worst breakup in the world. Is it me? What have I done?
You can't be calling him blonde Grealish. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, that is what I call him, Rich. I know. I can't. That's what I call. But as I said, I've swapped now. I call Grealish blonde Gallagher, so that's all good.
That's just rude, actually. Grealish is one of a kind. He's his own man.
Okay.
Honestly, he's pushed. It used to be Raheem Sterling was my stan, but now it's Jack Grealish.
We need to talk off air, I think, about your choices.
Oh no, honestly, but it's okay because he's still going to get these dojo points because Arsenal are going to have a terrific comeback and everything.
Yeah, clearly.
Forward to listening to this back. Yes, because Rich, we actually did talk about football and women's football and important things.
We talked about loads of big, deep issues, and you just missed them because clearly you were too busy to listen.
But thank you to Rich for letting us have this platform.
Thank you, Rich.
Yes, and I now have an amazing co-host, so it's going to be even more exciting. And we're going to talk about food and actual issues, and then food.
And then a bit of football.
Yeah. And then back to the food.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to be looking at Bromley's facilities on Saturday. So
yes.
I'll be there with my clipboard.
Yes. And we're going to follow female managers and
yeah,
the way
definitely.
they hopefully eventually integrate into the men's game. And issues with food. Absolutely.
Issues with the food. Yeah, we can talk about issues with the food. Talk about issues with the food.
We've got time. So thank you very much for agreeing to be an amazing co-host.
Thank you for having me. Thanks
I'm
for
going to
asking
try
me,
and
Laura.
do this thing now, this outro. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2,